Thank you. And of course, I have the great privilege of being able to moderate this discussion with you. I'm so excited because I know my son, and I'm sure all our children, love gaming. I know very little about it, so I'm really relying on both of you to inform me and to inform much of the audience as well. But we're really talking about this at the right time and the right place, because here we are in Asia, and Asia represents more than half of global esports participation. So how can international investors, many of whom are sitting here in the audience with us, how can they drive investment, training, and more in this industry? Let's start with you, Your Royal Highness.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. It's always a pleasure coming back to Tokyo. It is one of my favorite cities in the world. And when you talk about gaming, I mean, this is the ancestral home of gaming. You know, a lot of the IPs, the gaming companies, one of the biggest and greatest sitting next to me now, started from here and expanded to the rest of the world. And one of the things that I think is very interesting is when you look at the world and the future and the youth. I mean, there's roughly 100 million people in this world every year that leave this world, and 100 million people that come into this world. And so every year you have 100 million more people that are going to be gaming and gamers. Right now in Saudi, you have 67% of the population consider themselves to be gamers. The rest of them play, but they don't consider themselves gamers. So a lot of our investment is in the infrastructure. But the big mistake that people make is there's two kinds of infrastructure. There's physical, so there's a big investment in servers, a big investment in physical locations, games development companies. But the biggest investment is in the human infrastructure, the education, the people, the young men and women who are going to take this industry over from us and really build the next generation of what's going to be happening, who are going to use tools like AI, like the tools that are being built that were spoken about in the panels before us, that are going to have an inherent knowledge of those tools and really take what we're building and take it to the next level.
Yeah, the next level is what we're talking about. So Satomi-san, tell us your perspective. Obviously, SEGA, one of the big classic names in gaming. What are you seeing in terms of collaborations, partnerships, more investment here?
Yeah, definitely. Even the government of Japan getting more support to the video game industry as well. They realized finally that, oh, this is one of the big exporting business for Japan. As you mentioned, we are exporting a lot of video games around the world. This is a huge opportunity for us.
Okay, so what are some of the opportunities you see out there? It'd be great to know how you can leverage this room of potential investors to come here and pour more money into this incredible place that is Japan, that started it all.
As you mentioned, that Asia itself is a huge opportunity for us. Like nearly 15 years ago, video game business is only available in developed country because of the based on a console business model. It's not affordable for many people. But now, thanks to the penetration of mobile and online or PC video games, there are a lot of free-to-play video games available. Now, developing countries like India, or Southeast Asia, or even Latin, and those are growing faster than that of developed countries now.
Yeah, that's so interesting because we've talked about the digital divide, that a lot of the global south don't have access to the right digital infrastructure. But it's interesting, as you say, games are easily accessible by everyone who has a smartphone.
Right.
I mean, really incredible, isn't it? So we know Asia is the global epicenter for the gaming universe. There's lots of immersive gaming tournaments here. There are metaverse experiences. So what kind of infrastructure, policy investment is really needed to support the kind of scalable and inclusive growth that we want to see in the global south and, of course, all around the world so that companies like yours, your industry, can excel? Who would like to pick this up first? All right, Satomi-san.
The situation in Japan and Asia is a little different. In Japan specifically, there are a lot of behind in terms of the expanding of the business of esports. There are major two reasons. One is the regulations. we can't host a very high prize tournament because of the Japanese law. We cannot collect the entrance fee to everyone and give it to the prize. It's illegal. So that's why, that's one reason. The other one is the video game itself. The title, really popular outside of Japan. It's not so popular in Japan. So the players are different in Japanese market and in the rest of the world. That's the big challenge for us as a Japan.
That's fascinating. So there's really sort of cultural appreciation even within gaming, you know, and this is what I'm so interested in because I was listening to one of your interviews and you talked about a lot of the gaming targeting, you know, the cultural aspects of the Middle East and Saudi culture. So tell us a little bit about that.
So one of the things that I think is very much overlooked when it comes to gaming is gaming as a form of cultural export. And I say this a lot. For those of you that have heard this before, I do apologize. But one of the things that I think is very interesting as a medium, when you watch a movie, you're watching someone do something. When you read a book, you're reading about someone who has done something. But only when you're playing a game are you doing it in the first person. Yeah. So if you think about, you know, the amount of people who learned Japanese culture, Chinese culture and history from playing games that are built in those eras of ancient Japan or ancient China, and the stories that you're able to tell through that. I remember the first time I visited China, I went to the museum of you know, the history of the founding and the war museum, military museum, and they were describing to me the founding and the unification of China. And I said, oh yeah, you know, it's General Cao Cao and Lu Bu. And they said, oh, did you study Chinese history? I said, no, I played Dynasty Warriors. I was Cao Cao in that battle. You know, I led that battle and those formations.
Oh, fantastic.
But I knew that history because I firsthand led those armies into those battles.
Wow.
So the opportunity that we have now in the Middle East, because if you think about it, stories have been told for centuries. And yet, the stories from the Middle East have never been told by us. Think about stories like Aladdin, Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, the 1001 Arabian Nights. Those stories have been told by others, never by us from our point of view. So we have the opportunity now to develop games in an industry where we can tell people our stories from our point of view and have people walk a mile in our shoes, which is something that we've never been able to do before. And it's, I think, a huge opportunity for growth.
Yeah, oh gosh, I just love that. You're absolutely right. It's not just about the investments. It is a cultural export, and it enables understanding and cultural appreciation. Obviously, in Japan, you know, everyone around the world knows about anime, and it's incredible the kind of creativity that exists here with anime. So talk us through a little bit about the cross-border investments, the global studio partnerships as well that are really redefining Asia's role in the gaming industry. And what can other regions learn from Asia's success? So I know that SEGA, for instance, Sonic Hedgehog is a star. So there was a movie. I mean, talk us through that whole process of actually reaching out there, working with different mediums, different platforms, and getting the message out there, the cultural exports out there.
Yeah, currently we are taking the transmedia strategy. Of course, we are a video game company. The Sonic the Hedgehog, you know, come out from the video game, but we try to increase the touch point. Not only the video game, but like movie or animation or merchandise or location-based entertainment. So you can, you know, have a more cultural connect between Sonic and the fans. That's what we try to make in the worldwide basis.
Yeah, amazing. I loved, again, Your Royal Highness, when you mentioned you learned so much about Chinese history, because I'm a chancellor of a university as well as having been a journalist for a long time in my life. I'm particularly interested in the relationship between e-games and education, the ability to learn. So talk us through that relationship between educators, game developers, the technology platforms. How can they innovate new models for gaming learning, and as well with STEM education as well? It's really crucial. What are you seeing, Your Royal Highness?
Well, there's lots of overlaps between education and gaming. And in fact, if you look at many industries around the world, one of the things that people talk about a lot is gamifying what they're doing, making it more interesting, more engaging. And gamifying education is something that people have been working on for many years. In fact, one of the initiatives we have in Saudi that we learned from an initiative here in Japan was using esports and gaming at schools as an educational tool, not just for teaching students, but for retention. There was a program launched in Japan that we studied using esports at schools. And what they found is they had higher retention of students staying in school because they got a chance to play their games after school. Right now in Saudi, we have over 1 million children in our school esports leagues. We have over 16 universities, I think 18 now, in our university esports league. We have a Saudi Esports Academy. We have programs for games development at King Saud University, Princess Noura University, King Fahad Petroleum University, and King Faisal University. But what's important about all of these is there are applications to what you're learning in gaming outside of gaming. It's learning how to be tech savvy. It's learning coding, learning artwork, acting and voice acting. And one of the things that was very interesting to me from Singapore, actually, there was a young man who was an esports player, played Call of Duty, if I'm not mistaken, or CSGO, one of the first-person shooters. When he retired, he joined a bank, an investment bank, and went through their training program and rose through the ranks so quickly by using the skills he used as an esports player. Decision-making, computer skills and abilities, fast decision-making, but also knowing when to let go of a decision and move on from a decision quickly. Communication. He used all of these skills to get so far ahead and become a vice president so quickly that they gave him the mandate to create his own team underneath him of former esports players to then train in the bank, because those skills are transferable. But look at other industries. If you want to build a building, you build it first in a gaming engine before you ever put a brick to mortar. We use it now in preparation for the World Cup in Saudi. We're using gaming engines, not just to look at how the arenas are being built, but to look at safety protocols. How do people get out if there's an emergency? What's the best exit profiles? And you're using gaming engines in so many other industries. So gaming applications and education in gaming, and especially coding, have so many applications outside for a tech-savvy and a future nation and a youthful nation, that it's very important to have those programs at the school level and forward.
Fantastic. I want to meet that Singaporean banker. I live in Singapore, so it's a small place. I haven't met him.
I'll introduce
I'd love to meet him.
Like, I know, parents didn't like the video game. Even my wife keeps claiming that, oh, my kids don't play video game for a long time. But there are actually a lot of, way to help the education by using the video game technology. Like, for example, we giving away for free our programming tool that a lot of kids can make a video game and learn the programming for fun. Or like a gamification has a huge power. Like, this is kind of similar to the nudge theory or behavioral psychology kind of thing. That how to keep motivate people, how to keep doing something. Like Duolingo is a very famous language, study app. That's using a lot of video game theory to let people keep coming back or let people keep doing learning or something like that.
That's fantastic. So you're teaching the next generation how to actually create their own video games. So obviously there's a huge educational element in that. So many skills that you can take away from actually gaming, which I think I need to start gaming as well. Maybe the rest of us too as well, to learn a little bit more and be more effective in our regular lives. But it's interesting. You must have people knocking down your door at SEGA wanting to join, because it's such an exciting industry.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like the next talent generation that you're spawning there. So yeah, are you seeing a lot of demand for e-gaming careers?
Yeah, I believe so. And then we define and we separate the gamers and the players. the players is actually playing the video game. That we define the gamers is everyone involved in the video game industry. Like viewers, who watching someone play is bigger than that of actual playing the video game now. Or streamers, or influencers, or esports players. There are a lot of people, or even us, like developers or publishers of video games. Everything included, we define as gamers. Then we try to reach 3 billion gamers. Probably it's going to be a 4 billion in near future. That's what our goals now.
Oh, fascinating. I'm so interested in that. And also, again, it is about the next generation. They know so much. They socialize on video games. I mean, you've got Discord, which is actually better as a technology platform to, in real time, talk to your friends than a lot of the technology platforms we regularly use, And it's really amazing to see the kind of technological advancements that have come out from video game technology. So tell us a little bit as well, and I know Satomi-san, you talked a bit about this earlier, just the regulations around it. There is a big regulatory environment, and also I'd love to hear the perspective from Saudi. What kind of, of an environment in terms of public policy regulation is emerging to keep the younger generation safe, to keep these gamers safe?
Well, I think there's 2 ways to look at it. I mean, in a lot of industries, regulation is a 4-letter word. But for any industry to thrive, you have to have clear, concise regulation to make sure that everything is being done in the right fashion. And one of the things that was a big focus of us when we first started in Saudi is creating that communication pathway between private and public sector. So we have the Saudi Authority for Games and Esports, which is a semi-governmental authority led by His Highness the Crown Prince, with all the relevant ministers on the board of it, with an advisory committee from the private sector to say, anything that's done in gaming and esports, we are Team Saudi. When there's an announcement coming out, let's make sure we're not competing with each other internally. Let's make sure we're all on the same team. But also, let's make sure that when we're making regulation for business development and not for regulation's sake. And the perfect example of that is what happened recently with Roblox. There was a number of countries in the Middle East that banned Roblox because of a number of things that were happening. Whereas because of what we've built in Saudi and that communication avenue, what we did is we had a communication pathway with the team at Roblox to say, rather than ban, what can we do to improve the service? We sat down, we had a conversation, and we agreed on a pathway of, first, let's turn off all chat until we can make it safe. Let's build a team, cohesive team between Saudi and Roblox in Saudi to work together to make sure that we're safeguarding everything. Because one has to realize that what's done in gaming, there is an IP holder. And it is not just their responsibility, but it is in their interest to make sure that their games are safe. So as long as you open that communication path between you as a regulator, as a country, and the games developer, there is a pathway to make gaming safe for everyone. Listening to the community, work with the publisher, and make sure the regulation comes from the top down in a way that is clear and concise and not over-regulated. But that communication aspect with the publisher is the most important factor.
And Satomi-san, is this something that we're also seeing here in Japan? As I mentioned, Japan is the epicenter for gaming. The development of gaming more or less started from here. Has the Japanese government, to some extent, helped with policies and regulation to enable it to do so?
The thing I mentioned about the competition one is related to the gamble, so it's very difficult to change the rule right now. But outside of that, yes, they keep supporting in how to develop video game in Japan more and how to help to distribute it in the world. That's something Then for the responsible one, as an industry or individual publishers or developers, we have to be responsible for it. Like same as the movie, we have a rating system that, this game should play under 13 years old, or this is something like 18 years old or above. This kind of course, rating we have. even like a Nintendo Switch, have a notification system that
Yes.
let the
Yes.
kids know, oh, you already played
That's right.
2 hours straight, or you
So
should stop.
It's wonderful. It sounds amazing, Satomi-san, but we have run out of time so suddenly. And of course, we are graced incredibly with the Prime Minister of Japan. So we do have to go on to our next segment. But I have enjoyed this conversation so much.
Thank you
Please,
very much.
a big round of applause to our amazing, amazing panelists, Your Royal Highness, Satomi-san. It was
Thank you
such a
very much.
wonderful conversation. I really learned a lot.
Thank you very much.